Hi everyone, my name is Ravi Mundoli. I am from the 97 batch of IIT Madras, civil engineering. My nickname used to be Kiddo, and I was in Saras hostel when I was at IIT. And Kiddo, because I think I was by far the youngest looking person in my batch. I think that was, thankfully I have a nickname which isn't because of which is it's a politically correct nickname that I don't need to hide from anyone. So that's about me, and that's how I was at IIT. I'm a Malayali but grew up in Vizag. Academic parents, so came to know about JEE and all of that through my family, I think, and then went to the usual route, postal coaching and all of that stuff, and finally made it to IITM in the summer of 1993. I think in a sense I'd say almost a misfit at one level. In school I used to be better at all the non-technical subjects rather than in the technical or the STEM kind of stuff. But in those days, well, this is what you did, and that's how I ended up at IITM. In terms of what I enjoyed, probably the fondest memories at IIT were, I think, true to character, were around all the literary events and Lit Soc and Mardi Gras and those kind of things, because if you're good at something, you'll enjoy it. So I was reasonably useful to the hostel in terms of participating in literary events, and so I got a lot of encouragement in that. And that's probably among my favorite sort of things that come to mind. And apart from that, of course, almost everything except the academics and NCC kind of thing. Just the freedom, I think, was a big overall. If you ask for a theme, I'd say that it was the freedom of being able to almost do anything without parental controls. That was really, I think, something that probably went to our heads, for a lot of us. But all the late night chai trips to Tarams and just being able to live that way and in those days, obviously, it was much harder to keep tabs because you literally spoke with home once a week through an STD booth kind of thing. So it helped us, I think, form like a very close group camaraderie kind of thing. Just time spent in the hostel, and I would say those are probably some of the favorite memories. There's a lot of places on campus that used to be haunts for us. Usual sort of Quark and which is now something else, but Quark, Tarams, the hostel, I guess. I don't know if there was in hindsight it seems wasted, but there's a lot of opportunity to learn and do other things, like other interests that I picked up later on in life, which I could have indulged in IITM, but unfortunately, those were days when we didn't think like that. So that's probably a regret in hindsight, but in those days, I think these would have been what comes top of my mind. IIT, I think, has shaped life in more than one way. Obviously, it definitely opened up, I think, the horizon of possibilities, which I don't know if we would have gotten in some other place, right? Just the fact that there are so many things that you could even, again, now I feel, when I see the kids on campus and the facilities there, it seems like, there's a lot more you could do. But even in those days, I think, just the just like a wide opening of fields in which one could enjoy, one could participate in, and all of that, I think, was a big part of it. Two other things I would say. One, undoubtedly, is the network. I mean, that has probably been a big part. Wherever you go, more or less, there's somebody whom you can relate to, you can talk to, or will open doors for you. And in my professional life, I've certainly exploited that probably more than most. you know, because I was an entrepreneur, and the network really helped get us going. That is one part of it. The other, I think, is also the unkind way to say it is that this RG kind of mentality. But I think the real way to look at it is that sort of a do or die kind of way of getting, you know, things done, right? Where you would put your shoulder in and lean into whatever you were doing, and, you know, there were no questions asked kind of thing. I mean, it cuts both ways. I would say now probably people are more aware. They're able to ask questions about why they're doing things and why they're not doing certain things. In those days, I think we were simply, you know, did what we were told to a greater extent. And but in a sense, it gave us that I would say a kind of mentality which would not give up, right? Or which would try like crazy before giving up on something, right? And just that sort of creative, to an extent, I would say, creative problem solving when you need something done, right? So I think that was quite valuable. That I would say is probably the other big item. So lots of memories obviously associated with all the events and all the stuff that I took part in. The friendships are just absolutely wonderful. I mean, you are literally in cheek by jowl with these guys for 4 years, and you didn't have a connection back to your home planet, so to speak. So, you know, in a sense, you're all in one building, one alien colony kind of thing. So that, I think, was absolutely the friendships. To this day, I think the batchmate group, especially the hostel group, is still, you know, such a place of almost comfort and refuge and advice, or whatever it is, where you can just be yourself without having to be anything else. So the friendships, the networking, and I would say the attitude that it shaped probably are the big impacts, and, you know, and also the opportunities that it opened up. So I think those are probably the key things that we got out of campus or out of the life at IIT. After my BTech, I did all the usual things, applied for RoadCat, sat through camp placements, and also applied for masters abroad. And like most people probably, or in those days at least, got into a grad school in the US at the University of Massachusetts, did a master's in transportation engineering, joined a company that did supply chain software for manufacturing and related sectors. The company is based in Dallas. There's a whole bunch of IITians there, but the company's name was I2 Technologies. I was based in the Boston office and worked there for 4 years. There also, there was a good alumni network in the Boston area, which was, again, just being able to go back and reconnect and, you know, once a month or so hang out with these guys was, I think, quite valuable. It shaped it in one other very significant way, which is my business partner, Kalyan, was also an IITM alum, but he was senior to me, so I didn't know him on campus, but we met essentially through the alumni network in Boston, and we used to work in the same company. We ended up, so I was there for about 4 or 4.5 years, wanted to consider doing a PhD, applied for it, quit my job, and came back. And then, just a second. Came back to India, wondering whether I should go back for a PhD or stay put, not really sure of what I wanted to do. Did some sort of travel and stuff like that, and then finally didn't feel like going back to the US at that point. So I stayed in India. I found a job at a company in Hyderabad, the tech company in Hyderabad that, surprise, surprise, was also founded by a bunch of IITM guys who were my seniors. So I joined there, worked there for a couple of years. And then that is me and my partner Kalyan, we got this idea of trying to build a product for the Indian construction industry, essentially. So in a sense, I went the whole loop from being studying civil engineering to kind of giving it up, and to all the way to coming back to civil engineering and construction management and things like that. So we started Nadi Information Technologies with the intent of building tech, but originally we were a consulting company. We were actually incubated, one of the early incubators of the IIT Madras Research Park. And that's when I moved back to Chennai, and this is about 10 years ago. Moved back to Chennai, and then pretty much the last 10 years went in growing Nadi and, expanding our footprint. And there again, I think the whole IIT connections, both in terms of the alumni network as well as the faculty who are mentoring us, and connections with the department, I think really paid off. It also, I think, at one level, it revealed to me that I actually enjoyed quite a bit of the civil engineering stuff that I'd learned, and I was actually quite interested in going to sites and finding out how work is done and things like that. So it was a homecoming of sorts in that sense. So we ran Nadi for about 12 years, initially as a consulting company, and then we kind of, quote unquote, pivoted into tech a few years back, and we built a product for the construction industry, like a mobile and a cloud-based predictive construction management platform. I think we grew it to the point where it was one of the leading names in that space in India for sure. A lot of validation from clients and prospects. And just 2 months back, we were acquired by Bentley Systems. Bentley is one of the world's leaders in this space. We're probably the leader in technology solutions for infrastructure projects. And we were very, very happy to meet them. And, we started the conversation, and finally the acquisition closed in April, which is about 2 months back. And now we are all part of the Bentley family, and it's really a new horizons, new journey for us. We keep the same team and the same tech, but we are able to now take it to a much broader audience, do it in a much more scalable way than we used to before. So effectively now I work at Bentley Systems as a director of product management, but pretty much continuing to run the old business and the old product. And once again, I think without the IITM journey, I don't think any of this would have happened or would have come to pass. So that's the professional story, I guess. Sure. Okay. So a little bit of background on the construction industry, I think, would be in order. Around the world, it is one of the late or lag adopters of technology, right? Every other industry will leapfrog or has traditionally, it is the oldest industry in the world in some sense, right? People have been, between roti, kapada, makan, as they say, makan is right up there. It's been there for thousands of years, and people have been building things for thousands of years. But it's always, I think that both the industry is also sort of lagged in terms of technology. It's just the nature of the industry, because it's very fragmented in the sense that when you're putting up a project of any kind, it's in a sense, it's a temporary endeavor, right? You're doing it for 3 years or 2 years or 5 years or whatever the duration of the project is. So, these dozens of people come together, as dozens of companies and firms come together to make it happen. But one of the big challenges of projects like this is just making sure that things, that there's a sense of flow, right? That work just flows from one stage to the other. The reason our company's name is Nadi is to cover, Nadi as in river, is to convey that sense of flow of work or flow of projects. So that is very difficult. The way these projects were managed were largely a very clunky kind of a process, where you brought people together, you talked about things, then you went away, you did your own things, and a lot of information management just to make sure that everyone knows what is going on in different parts of the project. So even as late as 5 or 10 years back, a lot of this information was exchanged through, Excel sheets being mailed to each other, or WhatsApp messages and meeting minutes and things like that, but without where the risk for the owner of the project is that there isn't a clear line of sight into where do we stand today, where are we likely to end up, where should I intervene to make things better, or what is the what is the thing that is burning right now that I should go and intervene in, either, in any which way, right? And this was lacking in that sense. The other aspect of construction, and this, I mean, I think we were way ahead of probably the curve there, is that all the work happens, I mean, all the physical work happens at the field, right? At the sites and things like that. And then at the end of the day, somebody has to come into a trailer or an office and type it all up and tell the world, okay, this is what we did today, this is what we didn't do today, this is the reason why we didn't do things. Here's a photograph of this work completed and so on. We were at that point thinking, well, mobile phones are coming along. Why shouldn't all this just be done from the site by somebody who has a phone, right? And I think that aspect of taking the software to the field rather than expecting the field to come and find the software, I think is one of the key differences that we put in place very early. In fact, very early on, we wrote an application for Symbian phones running on Nokia, type devices and things like that, right? We were, way ahead. And, at that time, we definitely used to get reactions like, who's going to use a phone for, anything almost, right? Progress update at a site kind of thing. So the overall aim is, when you're doing a capital project, whether it's infrastructure, construction, real estate, whatever it is, can we give especially the person whose money is at risk, right? The owner or the main contractor, who's the one who's going to pay for any inefficiency, delays, rework, all of that stuff. Can we put something in their hands without having to, kind of make them throw away everything they've done in the past and bring a new way of working, or, kind of changing the culture to a unimaginable extent? Can we find like intervention points in their current, the way they do work, which will tremendously improve their ability to forecast, to predict, to identify bottlenecks, to mitigate early on. It's so much better if, instead of waiting for the 20th month of a 24-month project to realize that, oh, we're not going to hit the deadline, that in month 4 you get to know that, because of something you didn't do today or something that happened today, your 24th month deadline is going to slip to 28th month or whatever it is, right? Then you're de-risking yourself to that extent if you know earlier what might be going on. So the idea was to give that interconnected sort of information about the project in the hands of the decision makers without increasing the burden of data collection. In fact, making it much simpler than the traditional method, without increasing the burden, and automating a lot of the chores that go into running the project, right? If you go to any project today, you'll find people sitting and mucking around with Excels and PowerPoints and all of that to prepare like the state of the union, if you will, right? But we've been able to methodically kind of go in and remove some of those steps, and basically give everyone a reasonably automated way of monitoring and controlling their projects without in a way which fits well into their current style of working, without a lot of disruption into their day-to-day life. So I think the overall message is reduce the risk on the project by upfront being able to tell the people whose money is at risk about where things stand and where things need attention. I think that's probably the succinct way of putting it.
Awesome. So what's next? What's next for Nadi? What's next for Nadi with Bentley? So
yeah, I mean, so I think really what is exciting right now for us is that we are, our trajectory of trying to make this change is going to continue. I mean, our vision is to keep doing this, ideally to the point where, the way when people think about certain kinds of, become a byword in some sense for project controls. So we will continue to, build out our existing business within the Bentley umbrella, inside the Bentley fold. But we will also, with the resources and the know-how, especially, and the, the people in a world beating company like Bentley, we will be able to leverage all those strengths, right? Which we probably did not have the time or the bandwidth to invest in before. Basically bring some of those into our platform and kind of really push it into our, basically bring our sort of wishful thinking roadmap to fruition. Another big part of it is, I mean, the NPulse is the name of the product. It's now called Synchro NPulse. It was used in there were users in about 25 countries. I mean, we used to like to say that the sun rises in Borneo for us, for NPulse, and it sets in the Atlantic Ocean, because our easternmost project was in Malaysia, in Borneo, and the westernmost project was an island off Morocco. You know, it was like that kind of a span. 25 countries, there were users who were using it. But we really want to push that out as well, right? I mean, and we're very confident that with the reach that Bentley has, both in terms of its reputation, its people, its ability to get in front of the key stakeholders, we'll be able to now take the solution. We've always believed that it's actually, a very unique value proposition. I mean, we have done sort of road shows in the Middle East and in the US, and we've always had the feedback that, wow, this is really put together differently. And we feel like now we can actually, prove that by taking it to all these markets as well. So one would be on the technical or technological innovation, and the other would be to definitely expand the reach of where we are. Just go out of India a lot more, Southeast Asia and maybe the Middle East, and just basically become the answer to project controls questions in this part of the world, at least. Probably the most important thing is what mistakes not to make, right? I think, we started Nadi, and, we started on this journey in 2008-9, when there wasn't exactly this ecosystem of investors or mentors, or, we were learning, how to do this on the job, right? And absolutely, we have made, mistakes on the way, in terms of whatever, in a lot of ways, right? I mean, I would say we should have, we both of us, like, again, maybe this is what the IIT need. It's already changed, I think, but neither of us is really a great sort of marketing kind of a person, right? We really didn't invest a lot of effort in brand building and things like that, right? So, that's an example of the kind of mistakes that we made. So definitely one is, I would say what not to do almost is as important as what to do. Happy to, talk to anyone who would, with a pinch of salt. Obviously, it's all anecdotal. My experience or our experience is not going to be what someone else had, but definitely for there's enough data, there's enough of a data set inside IIT that you can talk to 5 people and you'll probably find out what's the common theme across all these 5 people, right? Or 5 companies or whatever it is, right? So they, what not to do, I think is one part of it. The other is, I would say, just once in a while, I think just a reset of, I mean, it can be a very kind of dreary, drudgery kind of journey at various points, right? And maybe we were able to do it because of an attitude that we had, not necessarily an ideal attitude in the sense, maybe we should have thought about it. But I'm saying just being able to cope with that highs and lows, or the monotony, the lows especially of when you start to do something yourself. I almost wish that there was someone who would have been able to talk to us about this. We just kept plugging away without being too aware, and before we know it, we had a business and we had to keep running it. But that's something. So I think a sounding board for things like this, at least on the entrepreneurship front, whether it's technology, whether it's attitude, whether it's people, what kind of people should you hire and not hire, those kind of early decisions that lock you in, especially, You know, those are probably areas where I can go on, and you know, your mileage may vary, but yeah, happy to do that.
Yeah. Thank you. So what are your other interests? What is your hobby? Do you have a me time? What do you do?
Yes. So I used to have a lot more of it. So I think um, the whole you know, the literary aspect at school that I was mentioning, and then later on being in IIT, meant that I had a lot of interest in in literary type type things. So there was a period when I was between, you know, when I quit my job in Hyderabad and before starting Nadi, where I was essentially like a freelance writer. So I was doing some travel writing, a couple of pieces in Outlook, Traveler. I used to write Telugu movie reviews for a Hyderabad-based portal, which was incidentally started by an IITM alumnus. So that was so writing in those days, I mean, used to bring me a lot of pleasure. For a long time, I was a volunteer with a group called Asha for Education, based in the US, looking at doing fundraising and other work for education related projects in India. The other thing that I used to do more often is running. So long distance running. I used to run marathons and half marathons very, you know, reasonably regularly. I've after coming back to India and after a couple of years in Hyderabad, I realized that the quizzing scene was very, very, very active in India, and I went back from, you know, taking a break on quizzing when I was in the US to getting heads on back into it. So that's now like a huge part of my me time, which is taking part or organizing quizzes, and it's a good network of people you get to meet and stuff. So these are some of the things. I think, unfortunately, a lot, you know, 3 out of 4 of these I've not been as active, or have not pursued as actively as I wanted to, especially in the last maybe 5 or 6 years. The quizzing is still going on because it's, you know, it's the one thing where I've been able to spend some time and keep doing. Running to a lesser extent, but still going on. The other stuff has unfortunately taken a backseat, and, you know, I'm hoping to kind of fix that maybe in the upcoming years. But those are things that I do outside of professional